Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Talk right here on Love 101. It is Saturday, January 29, 2022. I am Daniel Blake. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, Sports Talk is brought to you by the Jamaica Customs Agency, Country Above Self, and the Accountant General's Department. Service with excellence, touching the life of every Jamaican. Thank you to everyone listening on your radio right now. But if you want to listen to me on the go, so if you have places to go, people to meet, you can listen to me on the Love 101 FM app. You can download that in the Google Play or the Apple Store. If you're old fashioned, open up your browser, love101.org. Or for those who like using Facebook and YouTube, I am live right now on Love 101 FM's official page. Hello, everybody. All around the world who is listening. I realized that I had some people listening into some places that I really didn't know. So thank you so much for joining me. Remember, I would love to interact with you during the show. So you can leave your comments. We'll be talking about the English Premier League, even though it's on the winter break right now. A lot of exciting things happening. Manchester City leading the title race. For you Man United fans who like to suffer on the know how the thing go. Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal fans, if you are a Newcastle fan, whichever fan you are, just tell me your thoughts on the Premier League. So far, if you want to talk about the Reggae Boys, them lose to Mexico. Yeah, them lose to Mexico. If you want to talk about that, you can as well. The WhatsApp number is 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. You can leave your comments there and I will read it. Or for those watching on Facebook and YouTube, you can leave your comments right there in the comment section and I will read it live. So anything about the English Premier League or the Reggae Boys, I am more than happy to read them. All right, so as you know, that the Daniel log is coming up. That's where I give my monologue, which I try to tie in sports and real life into it. But before that, I'm going to go into my sports bits. So let me carry over my laptop. I want one of those floating laptops, anyways. All right, so here are my sports bits for this week. So sports bits are, things that you may not know or important sports things to know. All right. So the West Indies. So we did talk about the West Indies. Is last week or the week before? Not even remember. But the West Indies could seal their T20 series win this afternoon at 3 p.m. Against England in Barbados. Yeah, that's right. The Caribbean side currently lead 2-1 after Jamaican Rovman Powell's century led them to a 20-run win on Wednesday. So they can go 3-1 up in the 5-match series. So that would be impressive, especially after what we saw against Ireland and Pakistan and what we saw at the T20 World Cup. So we'll see what happens. It's live on TV. So find it for obvious reasons. Again, I can't tell you where to watch it, but just find it. Meanwhile, Cricket West Indies president Ricky Skerritt and head coach Phil Simmons have denied that Jamaican Dean Smith has been victimized. Smith was dropped in favor of Rovman Powell for the third T20 and reportedly complained about the situation to the West Indies Players Association. Both Skerritt and Simmons says, that's foolishness, that people are trying to, tear the team apart, and whatever it is. A meeting that was to be held on Friday to discuss the matter was postponed till next week. So we'll see how that goes. And at 3 p.m. today as well, for you Purple Roses and True Purple, whatever you want to call themselves, Manning Cup champions, Kingston College. They will take on the Costa Cup champions, Garvey Maceo, at 3 p.m. As I said, they will do battle for the Olivia Shield, which is the All-Ireland title. That will take place at the Stets complex, Stets meaning St. Elizabeth Technical High School, their complex. The All Ireland title has gone to a rural school in the last two editions, which are Clarendon College. But urban area schools have won 11 of the last 13 titles. Oh, that's a lot. Mhm. But you know who? Maybe this is the streak for the the rural schools. So maybe them can make it three in a row instead of it being broken so early. So we'll see how that goes at 3 p.m. Again, that is also on TV for obvious reasons. Can't tell you where to watch it, but um, you'll find it. Just scroll through. Anyways, it is time for my monologue. Hi, this is David Blake.
This is Hope Blake.
I am Ariel Brown Blake.
I'm here to tell you right now.
It's time for the Danielog.
The Daniel Log.
The Daniel.
I love it. Presented by no one.
I still don't get a sponsor for the Daniel Log as yet. I realize only listening out there, I'm sure it's on a hire to some company that can sponsor the Daniel Log. Please do. All right. So I want to title this one today, The Good Has to Suffer for the Bad. So in prep school, I used to hear that a lot, and my teachers loved to say it. Um, and most of my memories of the good has to suffer for the bad was, like when you're in class and the teacher teaching, or you're supposed to be doing something, writing something down or whatever, and your class, like two or three of your classmates might be talking, or it could be just one. And then the teacher, rather than punishing that one student, make the entire class stand up. The entire class. So you have to put your hand on your head or stretch your hand out or something of the sort. Or you have to go outside and stand up in the sun. All because of one or two people, right? And them always repeat it. The good has to suffer for the bad. I hated that so much. Like, imagine Daniel just doing him work, sit down silent and whatever. But I have to suffer because my classmate loved the chatting zine. I hated that so much. Anyways, but as life went on, I realized how simple but profound that statement is. The good has to suffer for the bad because we see it in literally everyday life. So we see it with the crime situation. So the good suffers for the bad. We see it in business. Good has to suffer for the bad. We see it in environment issues. Good suffer for the bad. We're even seeing it right now with this whole COVID situation. The good has to suffer for the bad. Now, I don't really want to get too much into that those aspects of it. I really want to stick to sports. But why have I said all that? So the Reggae Boys, who had a very, very, very small chance of qualifying for the World Cup, playing at the National Stadium with no fans, a lot of people expecting Mexico to run away with it. Little old Jamaica say, you know what, we now give up the fight. Down to 10 men, we take the lead 1-0 against Mexico. Mexico, who is in pole position to qualify, who have qualified for many, many World Cups. We are leading 1-0 and we are whole out. And then we make a substitution, a forced substitution, because our right back Javin Brown looked like he got injured. And here comes his replacement, Alvas Paul. The good has to suffer for the bad. Guess where the two goals that Mexico score came from? For those who didn't see it, you can go and watch the highlights, and you will see that Alvas Paul was particularly responsible for those two goals. The good has to suffer for the bad. Imagine the Reggae Boys probably played their best defensive game of the entire tournament or the entire qualifiers, and it just take one man to come on and change that. And I don't have anything against Alva Spoil. I don't know him personally. He's obviously a talented footballer. But for people who say that, football is a team sport and in team sport, individuals um, can make a difference, these things happen. So, yes, it's a team sport, but we all know that it takes one person to change a game, whether for the good or the bad. That's why we have some of the best players in the world, like Lionel Messi. Sometimes when Barcelona or Argentina needed somebody to step up, Messi did so more often than not. And when he didn't, it was hard for them to win. Same thing like in maybe like a relay. Um, Enough time Jamaica did, the men's team may have gotten the button in like second or third, but once you give Bolt or Asafa that button, them gone. So it's unfortunate that in this instance, Alva Spoil couldn't come on and play like a Cafu or a Danny Alves, you know. And it's not like him don't know how to play football. This he never started playing football yesterday. So it just hurts. And it probably hurts the other guys on the team more than it hurts me as the fan because the man them play them heart out. Literally. And some people might say, okay, Mexico didn't play their best game, but we hold them. And you just wonder, what if we could have hold on for 10 more minutes? We'd be going into Sunday's game rejoicing, thinking, hey, it's not over as yet. But if you thought that we had a very small, small, small chance of qualifying, now it seems like it's it's mission impossible. Yeah, the good has to suffer for the bad. Oh, yeah, them have to suffer. Anyways, that was my Daniel log for this afternoon. We'll be talking a bit more on the Reggae Boys loss to Mexico and previewing the Panama game. Did I say Panama or Panama? Whichever one I want to pronounce it. I'll be joined by sports journalist Brian Pitter shortly. But before that, I have to take a short break and then we'll be right back.
Hello? Hello? Nobody light it. Protect the land. Respect the warning.
The time by Jamaicans Against Bushfires, Jab, is
It is 1:15.
Jamaicans, it's our Diamond Jubilee, 60 years of independence, and the cultural powerhouse JCDC is searching for Jamaica's next gospel star. The JCDC is now accepting entries for the Jamaica Gospel Star competition. Share your ministry in song. Submit your video performance of a cover or original song of 2.5 minutes. Visit the JCDC's website and social media pages for details to register and upload your entry. Entries close on February 28th. Are you the next gospel star?
Welcome back to Sports Talk right here on Love 101. I am Daniel Blake. It is now 1:16 and I'm now joined by sports journalist with 876 Stream, Brian Peter. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
All right. Before I ask you my first question, Brian, let me read some of these comments. Oh, somebody said happy Sabbath. Thank you so much. Lang D says, Alvas not ready. He is JPL level at best, Jamaica Premier League level at best. Um, all right, so I was going to ask you your overall disappointment, but since we're on the topic of all of us, um, what did you make of his introduction? Do you think that he should have been that person? And do you think that he has been more of a liability to the team than an actual success? Because this doesn't seem like the first time that this has happened.
No, it's not. Alvarez actually has, I think he's lost it since the beginning of the Octagon round. I've always been a big fan of Alvarez. I've always actually enjoyed watching him on the right flank for the Reggae Boys over the years. But recently, especially since the Octagon started, first match against Mexico, continuing from then, it seems as if he's lost um, what he normally has possessed in the past. I'm not sure if it's a lack of confidence. He's not that old, so it's kind of troubling to just look at him decline like this. But given the circumstances surrounding his previous appearances and how he has played for us, I don't think he should have come on. But speaking with Paul Hall after the game, he didn't have a choice because the only other viable option would have been what Mariappa. Javier Brown had to be substituted
Mhm.
because the coach admitted that he was tired. It's preseason. He's just getting back into the groove of it, and I think that a lot of our players are going through that phase right now, preseason, and they're
Mm.
not as much fit. So that is going to affect us negatively, and that affected Javier, and so he had to be substituted. Mariappa isn't as fit. I don't know if he stayed until a little bit after the match. You saw Mariappa doing some extra training because he needed to get ready, and hopefully he can start in the game against Panama. So I thought the coach just felt like he had no other option but to put on Alvas. So his back was against the wall. But with that being said, he was selected and he should be able to compete at that high level, and he should have acted accordingly. And he failed us with those two goals. I won't blame it outright on him, but he was culpable for those two goals.
So you're not blaming him, but you're blaming him.
Yeah, I don't want it to seem like we're just targeting Alvas because as I said, there's a particular picture. If you saw the video for I think it's the second goal, he was pointing to, I don't know if it was more to go and
Yeah, I
mark
think it was
that
more. Yeah.
he's supposed to mark. So yeah, he's at fault for that. But I feel as though defensively as a unit, we could have done better. But he definitely will get a lot of the hits in next coming days.
Yeah, and I guess the reason why we seem to be blaming him more than anybody else is because we seemed, even though we did survive some scares during the game, it seems like defensively, even down to 10 men when Damian Lowe went off, that
Mm.
the Ethan Pinnock Liam Moore partnership was working very well. Javane Brown, who, as you said, was not as much sharp as he could have been because he's currently in preseason, looked very, very good. Greg Lee came on for Kemar Lawrence and did a shift, and we saw the midfield working. Does that make the defeat a bit more disappointing, knowing that even with that, you know, stalwart type performance, that we just couldn't get over the line?
Yeah, and I guess that's why it's easier to point fingers at Alvas because defensively as a unit we're looking good. We're holding off a Mexican team that were pressuring us basically since we scored the goal. And I think when it was like the 78th minute, I said if Mexico ever scores right now, it's going to break my heart because we're defending so well. Blake had pulled off as usual a few good saves, and I just thought that we could hold it out. And I guess the players just they ran into the ground. They got really tired, and one lapse in concentration saw us concede one goal. And from we conceded the equalizer, the confidence in the team, it was obvious. The confidence in the team was absolutely shattered. And once Jamaica's confidence is shattered, it's like, we don't really feel like we need to go out there and play. And that's the difference between us and Mexico. Mexico was trailing for what, 80 minutes.
Yeah.
No, well, for 70 minutes thereabout. Well, most of the game, and they didn't really let their heads down. They kept attacking. They kept pressuring us, um, and eventually they got the two goals that they needed. And we just never had that confidence to believe that we could have held out for even a draw.
Andre Blake, um, Paul Hall, and Damon Lowe after the game had said that they believed if fans were inside of stadium, um, they would have they would have come out victorious because they feel like that 12th man would have helped them. From being at the USA game back in November where we had the 5,000 and also being at the match on Thursday, do you agree with those sentiments or do you think that we'd have just concede nonetheless?
No, 100%. I I won't go as far as to say we would have won for sure, but it would have definitely made a big difference because if you anyone who was at the game against the United States could have, you could tell that the fans were very impactful on how the players performed. Um, and I said when Damian Lowe scored that winner, I'd like to see it as a winner. It definitely was. But it was chalked off because of refereeing decision. The entire stadium erupted. Only like, and I said the entire stadium because it felt like it was at max capacity, but there it was only 5,000. And every time the players attacked, the fans were cheering them on, and you could see that it was being translated into the way the boys were playing. So definitely, Damian Lowe, Andre Blake, and even Michael Ricketts. I spoke to Michael Ricketts after the game. He said, if the fans were in there, it could have spurred on the boys to we probably could have even scored more than one goal. You never know because confidence is really important when it comes into football. And when you're very confident, you tend to play better than what you actually are. And we've seen that happen many times in the past before.
Yeah, you spoke about the Damian Lowe winner. It's ironic that
Mm.
he and I guess the public and even the JFF had requested for VAR because they felt that goal would have stood, and then he's the one who ends up getting the bad side of VAR and
Yeah.
getting sent off. Just from your perspective, did the referee get it right, or do you think that he had succumbed to the pressure because he was told to come over and look at it?
Um. So I didn't particularly see the tackle itself, but I knew it was a very rough challenge. I was far away and I saw the way Guardado went down. Um, Damon Lowe is known to be a very rough tackler. Um, and I was speaking to somebody after the match as well, and if he changes that, because times have changed, unfortunately. Football is now a game where you can get a red card for the simplest of things.
Mhm.
Unfortunate or fortunate based on how that affects you and your team. But in this instance, where I was standing, I don't think it was that bad of a challenge for it to warrant a red card. Tata Martino even said that it was a very harsh decision, and that's Mexico's coach.
Mhm.
So maybe we were hard done by, but I still feel as though Lowe placed himself in that position for him to end up getting that red card because it was an unnecessary tackle. He was on the half line or a few meters from the half line. Guardado wasn't going anywhere. He didn't need. I don't think he needed to make the challenge right there or that hard of a challenge. So I think if he fixes that part of his game and he accepts that, listen, he's one of the integral members of the squad and he needs to be more aware that he can't be that reckless in the future, you know, then going forward he can improve.
Um, so surprisingly, I didn't expect him to admit this, but Paul Hall after the game had said that they played better with 10 men than
Mm,
11. So Damon Lowe is now going to miss the Panama game tomorrow,
yeah,
the Costa Rica game on Wednesday, and I think it's going to be the is it the Honduras game? I have to go refresh my memory, but
yeah.
he's going to be out for a period of time. From what you've seen from that more Pinnock partnership and bearing that Kevin Stewart, who was brought in wasn't fully fit. He was in the stands, but he's expected to play. And then Mariappa, as you mentioned, are
Mm.
you confident that we can get a result against Panama and still keep our very small hopes alive?
Uh, well, given Lowe's absence, I'd hope that the coach goes to a back three. I thought he would. Kind of surprised me that the team plays so well in a back four, but that just shows you that different coaching, different results.
Hmm.
Um, but Richard King has come in from Cavalier to replace Lowe. Not sure if he'll feature, but the Moore and the Pinnock partnership, I think, is good enough for us to compete against Panama. I'm really impressed with Pinnock. I was very surprised that he wasn't featured a lot more. Um, but we know the controversy surrounding that. Um, so hopefully, when we go against Panama tomorrow, and it is more and Pinnock that lineup. If not the back three, I prefer if we have a more Mariapa and Pinnock three
Hmm.
with Jaffe and Lay instead of Lawrence as the wing backs. So I do think I don't Lowe will be missed greatly. He's one of our best centre backs, if not our best. But I think there are some changes the coach can make to circumvent that absence.
All right. Just less than 2 minutes, but we've seen Paul Hall against Peru and against Mexico.
Mm.
Just two games, but how would you assess his tactics and the team's performances under him compared to his predecessor, Theodore Taphouse?
There's already a sense of cohesiveness. Like the players know exactly what they're supposed to do now. Like I can see that, and I could see that more predominantly in the Mexican game. It's going to take a while for his instructions to actually reap the full fruition. Um, it's kind of unfortunate that he was put in this position at this point in time, a very, very demanding time for Jamaica right now. So you might not see the full effects of what he actually wants to do. And as I said before, some of the players are going through preseason. Some of the players haven't played since last year competitively. So it's going to be very difficult to judge him because in order for him us to judge him, he has to have a full strength squad and all the best players available. So, but I've been impressed with the way some of the instructions that I've heard him giving out, and I've seen it executed. The players seem to have a lot more respect for him, um, and he's also not afraid to speak with the media and to express himself in that manner, which I feel is a positive for the Reggae Boys and how the team looks overall. So in all in all, I'm very excited to see, hopefully he can stay beyond the next 5 games, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens tomorrow against Panama as well. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
All right, that was Brian Pitter there, sports journalist with 876. Stream talking about the Reggae Boys' loss to Mexico on Thursday and previewing Sunday's game against Panama. All right, so we're going to go into another break. But when we come back, we'll be talking English Premier League with one of the voices of the league. So stay tuned.
Joe, what?
Nobody light it.
What your man say? Do what? No light what?
Nobody light it. You know, sister, we in a dry season. Plus breeze a blow. You are set me up for disaster.
Disaster? What kind of disaster?
Bushfire, Joe. Bushfire. If that the fire they catch and spread, we can lose everything. House, land, car, gone. See a carelessness. Nobody light it.
You know what, you? I feel with duty to protect life and property.
Yes. Me glad you respect the warning.
This message was brought to you by Jamaicans Against Bushfires. Jab, plan, protect, prevent.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness invites members of the public to attend a vaccination site on Saturday, January 29 or Sunday, January 30 to receive their first or second dose of the AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, or Johnson & Johnson vaccine for persons 18 years and older. Jamaicans 12 years and older will also be offered the first or second dose of the Pfizer vaccine. Here are the sites for Saturday, January 29. Kingston and St. Andrew, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. St. Joseph's Hospital, Dehaney Park and Harborview Health Centers. St. Catherine, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Greater Portmore and St. Jago Park Health Centers, Old Harbor Civic Center, or the Linstead Anglican Church in Hanover, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Ramble and UC Health Centers. In St. James, Montego Bay Comprehensive Health Center, Type 5, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. In Westmoreland, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Savannah Lamar Health Center and the Royal Medical Center and Savannah Lamar Medical Center. Persons should take their vaccination card, a government-issued ID or letter from a justice of the peace to the sites. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life.
January 21st to 29th. Celebrate H&L's 94th anniversary at H&L Agro. Get up to 50% off selected seeds, gardening accessories, pesticides, and more. Visit your H&L Agro store to save. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to Sports Talk, Saturday, January 29, 2022. It is now 1:32. Let me just read some more of your comments before we get into the next interview. Like D says, in terms of depth and quality, we are up there with the USA. The only difference with them and us is they possess the ball and make proper changes during the game. I do agree with that, especially with this set of players. I think arguably this has been Jamaica's most talented team. We have players playing in Europe and professionally in the American system more than ever before. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. And Andrew Gilfillian says Mariappa should have come on when Brown got injured. Yeah, we had that discussion. So, yeah, wish that it happened. At least we could have said, boy, Mariappa not up to pace, but I'd have gone for, no, in hindsight, would have gone for experience than what we ended up seeing. So the English Premier League right now is on a winter break, but we have seen some exciting things so far with the title race. Manchester City currently lead. The top four races as tight as ever with Manchester United, Arsenal, West Ham, Tottenham, and even Wolves in the bit of it. The relegation battle is also quite hot down there with Newcastle, Burnley, Watford, Norwich, and some could even say Everton. So I spoke with Gary Taphouse earlier this week. Gary is one of the voices of the Premier League. If you watch it on a regular basis, you will hear his voice. So we spoke about the title race, the top four battle with Manchester United, the relegation scrap, and we also spoke about some Jamaicans in the Premier League as well. So hope that you enjoy my conversation with Gary. So here we go. And usually during most Premier League seasons, managers and players complaining about the schedule, what it does to them physically and mentally. I want to know from a commentator's perspective, do you get physically and mentally tired from that hectic schedule, especially during that Christmas period where you're doing multiple games, having to prepare? Does it take a toll on you like it does the players and the managers?
Wow, good question. I mean, last year I did 130 games for the course of the season. So, to be honest, the Christmas period wasn't one of the busiest spells for me. The busiest times for me, September and October time, when you have Champions League, Europa League, UEFA Youth League, Championship, the EPL during the week, and then the Premier League at the weekend. So sometimes I might do 8 games in a week. But listen, I'm not going to complain because doing this job is a massive privilege. Sometimes the travelling takes its toll on all of us because you might be at one end of the country one day and then back in the studio the next day, or a different ground in another part of the country. But that's just part of the job. Being at games, commentating on games is it's a huge privilege and a pleasure for all of us. So you won't find me complaining about it. Obviously, the more games you do in a short space of time, the less time you have to prepare for the matches properly. And I hate the idea of turning up the game unprepared or badly prepared. Obviously, there are times during the season when you think, wow, that's been a crazy schedule. But obviously, it's not the same physical demands that players have and that managers constantly complain about. But I think we all want to do a good job. You do the best job when you have fewer matches. But equally, as you know, football is now a 7-day-a-week thing. There are matches every day, and there are lots of matches, and they all need to be covered. So, for the first time really in the last couple of years, I've started to say no to certain games because it's just not physically possible to do. You can't have a space 10 days where you do a game every single day because you would not be able to do all of those games justice. So it's very difficult to say no when it's your job, but there are times where I have, just so that you are fresh and properly prepared.
A very competitive title race, at least at the start of December, a 3-horse race between City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. But City went on that 12-game win streak, which was broken against Southampton, and Liverpool and Chelsea, stumbled a bit during that period. What have you made of the title race this season, and how impressed have you been by Manchester City that they can keep going on these win streaks, because they did it last season as well?
Yes, well, the start of the season, I covered a lot of Chelsea actually, and was really impressed with how they played. And I think we all thought with them signing Romelu Lukaku, that was like the missing piece for them. They were going to have the goals, which would make them a real contender. And actually, they haven't lost loads of games. What they've done is drawn too many games, which they should have won. Games where they've been in front at home, haven't got the second goal, missed loads of chances, and been pegged back. And that's happened way too often for Chelsea's liking. And obviously, the Lukaku thing hasn't quite worked as yet. At one stage, they had him and Timo Werner out injured, which was a bit of a disaster because then they had to play different players up front. He was playing Kai Havertz up front, which it's not his position at all. And he did very well, but obviously when you're going for the title, you need to have a main striker up front. It's pretty obvious. So I think things conspired against Chelsea a little bit there. For Manchester City, how can you fail to be impressed, really? At the start of the season, you thought, well, it's taking them a bit of time to fire, but what Manchester City can do is actually not play particularly well and still win comfortably.
Yeah.
And that's down to their squad, isn't it? They've got the best squad. They've got the biggest squad. They've spent the most money. They've probably got the biggest wage bill. All of these things combine, and over the long term, it's going to tell. They can have players missing, and they've got players of an equal quality to come in, who are chomping at the bit to show what they can do. And of course, having said Chelsea and the striker situation, Manchester City have had a long time without a striker at all and found a way, so it can be done. So yeah, brilliant. As you say, 12-game winning streak. It was a bit of a hiccup against Southampton, and Southampton played really, really well in that game. But again, they didn't lose it, did they? They found a way to keep this unbeaten run going. It's going to be very, very difficult for any team to overhaul them now. I know Liverpool have got a chance. They're going to have to avoid dropping points and beat Manchester City when they play them again. Even then, there'd still be a gap. So they are relying on Manchester City slipping up, and that doesn't happen very often. So it's not so much of a race anymore. I mean, it's still not dead, and no Manchester City fan will say it's over, and you won't find Pep saying it's over. But if they keep doing what they're doing, then they'll win it again. I think Chelsea are out of it now. Personally, I don't see them clawing that amount of points back. Liverpool, as I say, they've got a chance because they will have their players back from the African Cup of Nations, and their strongest team is as good as anything. As good as City's strongest team is whether they've got the depth over the course of the season. And of course, you've got the Champions League returning as well, which always throws a bit of a spanner in the works because it's more games, more potential for injuries. But I don't think you'll find many people who will say anything other than Manchester City are going to win the title now. And it's a shame because I think at start of December, it really did, as you say, look like a three-horse race, which we haven't had for a while. And it would have been nice to keep that going a bit longer, just for those of us who are neutral. But equally, you've just got to admire Manchester City. They're a machine, aren't they? They just managed to pull result after result out. And it's very, very difficult to beat them.
Yeah, we mentioned the three-horse race. At the start of the season or at the end of August, we thought it would have been a four-horse race. Manchester United, they had some big name signings: Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho, and Cristiano Ronaldo coming in to a team that had finished second previously, but things haven't gone as planned. They're now in the midst of a top four race under an interim manager. And from what you've seen from them and how they have been playing so far, are you confident that they can go on a run and essentially keep their spot in the Champions League, or are you fearful that things will go bad, especially from the reports that we're hearing that some players may not be happy with Rangnick's tactics or with the star treatment that Ronaldo is given? Do you think that they'll be able to overcome all that to stay in that top four?
Well, it's a big question, isn't it? I think fourth place is really up for grabs this year. I was at Arsenal on Sunday and they just needed to beat Burnley to go back into fourth, and they failed. It was a 0-0, missed lots of chances. Tottenham then obviously went to Chelsea, had lost again. They missed the opportunity. Manchester United will probably feel they're favourites for that position. One of the most remarkable games I commentated on this season was their defeat at Watford, which was obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's last game. Absolutely incredible match. That's certainly one I'll never forget. For them to concede 4 goals the way they did blew my mind, really. And of course, Watford twice missed a penalty at the start of the game. So completely mad. Star treatment of Ronaldo, yeah. I mean, we had that situation where he was taken off when the team were 2-0 up last week, and he obviously reacted in quite an angry way. I think, with Ronaldo, that he is a born winner. He wants to play every minute that he can. Whether or not he showed it in the right way in that moment is open to debate. I think you'll find plenty of Manchester United fans that actually don't mind that at all. Maybe some others will be a bit disappointed because he is kind of someone that the younger players look up to in a massive way, and they wouldn't want them behaving like that. It's not all about him, is it? It's about the team. And in that situation, Manchester United were obviously going to go on and win the game. So, you talked about the schedule at the top of the programme, and, he's got to be careful with a player of Ronaldo's age. He's got to make sure he stays fit and healthy. So it was a good opportunity to give them a break. There is obviously a little bit of unease, I suppose, if we believe the reports about Ralph Rangnick's tactics, the system he plays, this kind of 4-2-2-2. Which isn't everyone's cup of tea by any means. I don't think we're going to see him there beyond this season. And there was certainly some suggestion when he came in that if he made a favourable impression, then maybe he could be there for the long term. I don't think that will be the case. We still don't know who the new man's going to be. So it feels a little bit like Manchester United are in limbo at the moment. A good season for them will be ensuring that they are in the Champions League again next season. I think it's about containing, really. It's about saying, look, we're not good enough to challenge Manchester City and Liverpool at the moment. Let's see what happens in the summer. They're going to be looking for an elite manager, that's clear. There'll be more spending, that's clear. Players are going to be leaving. Players are coming to the end of their contracts. We don't know what's going to happen with Cristiano. That's up in the air. So, they are in a kind of a strange transition period at the moment, Manchester United. So I think if they get fourth, they'll be really pleased. It's not where they want to be in the long term, but it's a start, isn't it?
So we've spoken about the title race and United and that top four race. Another thing that we have been very interested in is that relegation battle. At one point, we thought Norwich were down, and then Dean Smith has got a couple wins under his belt, and they're now outside of the relegation zone. Newcastle with that takeover and with the change of manager and bringing Eddie Howe, we thought that would have elevated them, but they haven't reached those heights as yet. Burnley, who are usually able to make their way out of sticky situations, haven't done so as yet. What have you made of the relegation race? And out of all those teams, who do you think is more likely to avoid that drop?
Well, we've still got half the season to play, so it's going to be very interesting. You're assuming there, like I am, that it'll be 3 from those 4 that go down. It could be that another team joins them. It's certainly not done and dusted, but it's just from those 4. There's always a team that goes on a bad run and sinks like a stone. There seems to be most years, so that's possible. In terms of those 4, obviously I watched Burnley at the weekend at Arsenal, and that was classic Burnley. They dug in, got a point, made life very, very difficult for Arsenal. And they're going to need to do a lot more of that because they've won 1 of the last 21 games, and that's relegation form in anyone's book. Newcastle is interesting because they will probably be active again during this window, and I think a lot depends on who they sign. They got that brilliant win at Leeds at the weekend, which has given them a massive lift, just their second win under Eddie Howe. And I think that with the financial power they've got, they will feel confident that they can do enough. It might be by the skin of their teeth this year and build again in the summer, but they will feel confident. Watford, I mean, it's a crazy club in many ways, isn't it? They've been on a terrible run, really. You take the win out against Manchester United away, it's been virtually all defeats. And, losing at home to Norwich, that was a real shocker. And not just the result, but the manner of the performance. I think that was what was the big worry for Watford fans. And you're right about Dean Smith. It's taken him a little bit of time to make his mark, but they're suddenly showing a lot more grit. Some young players have come in there and really been up for the fight, which I think has been a surprise to a few people. So, really difficult to pick one out of those 4 to stay up. And one thing we know is, you say relegation battle, I think this year more than ever, it really is going to be a battle. And like I say, I wouldn't be surprised if they continue picking up points, those 4, that there may be another team who joins them. I mean, an example for you is Brentford, who started the season so well, just starting to edge a little bit closer to where they don't want to be. At the moment, they're fine. But if you keep losing and the teams in the bottom 4 start picking up points, then it doesn't take very long before that gap closes. So don't rule out another team joining them. It's possible. If I had to pick one to stay up right now, I would go with Newcastle, simply because of the fact that I'm sure there's going to be more squad strengthening going on in this month. Whether or not they'll be the right players remains to be seen. But that's going to be the really interesting one. And maybe this is the year where Burnley just finally don't quite have enough. And they're going to rely on their old-fashioned methods of battling and digging in to try and get enough points. But, they need to start winning.
Yeah. Over the last few seasons, the introduction of video assistant referees, VAR, has come into the league. Goal line technology, I guess less complaints have been about that, because if it goes over the line, it's a goal. But with VAR, we seem to always have these conversations after the games, whether they were right or whether they were wrong. From a commentator's perspective, do you think that it has been a positive for the game, or do you think that it has been almost a bit of a buzzkill? Because I'm sure that you have called many goals and they've been ruled out for offside or some foul before.
Yes, that's horrible. Particularly if you do go big on a goal, and then you think, it's not a goal. And what I don't ever want to do is, really tone it down, because there's a fear it might not be a goal. So, I will still go big. I don't care. But yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, VAR, I was very much for it, because I think it can work. I really do. And I think there are lots of examples where it's worked really well. There are still too many times where VAR is looking for a reason to disallow a goal, or give a penalty. I mean, there was one in the Crystal Palace Liverpool game, which I think it's baffled lots of people. To me, that's not a penalty. If a striker basically fouls a goalkeeper by running into him, it's not a penalty. But VAR found a way of that being a foul the other way. The referee had a look at the monitor, and we know 99% of the time that happens, he's going to overturn his decision. So, has it been a success? You'd have to say no, it hasn't as yet. I still think it's the right thing that we have it, because it will get better, and ultimately it's only as good as the people using it. And I would like to see referees who are specialist VAR referees, who don't go out to the games to do refereeing, but they are at Stockley Park in front of the screens all the time, getting better at that job. At the moment, they switch and swap all the time. So one week there'll be a game as a fourth official, the next week there'll be a VAR, the following week there'll be a referee, the week after there'll be a VAR assistant. I think it would be much better to have teams of referees. So you've got the main referee, you've got his team, and you've got the VAR he trusts, and he's always the VAR. And I just think if you do that job more and more, you'll get better at it. There'll be other people who completely disagree with that. That's how I see things getting better. We've got to persist with it. I think there's no danger of it being scrapped, because we're so far down that road now anyway. They've just got to look at improving it year on year. And that's exactly what they do. They sit down and say, well, that worked, that didn't work. Let's do less of that. Let's do more of that. And involve the players and the managers as well, get them involved, because they're the ones on the front line who it's happening to. Say to them, what in your view has been good about VAR and what's been bad, and let's work with them rather than forcing things on them. It's not about us as commentators, we'll just do as we're told. But I think we all want a better product, and we want as many right decisions as possible. So that's the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't want to keep you much longer, because I know that you have quite a busy schedule. But my last question, being a Jamaican, we currently have a few Jamaican internationals in the Premier League. Aston Villa with Leon Bailey, West Ham with Michael Antonio, Ethan Pinnock of Brentford. Over the years, we've had a Premier League winning captain in Wes Morgan and several others. Have you been pleased with the quality of play that you have seen from our Jamaican internationals? And would you want to see not only more Jamaican internationals in the league, but culturally from other countries that we don't see very often?
Listen, the Premier League has been cosmopolitan ever since it launched, really, and it's only got more so. The number of nations represented in the Premier League is massively ballooned. And I watched Mikel Antonio score those goals for Jamaica. I think it was the last international break, wasn't it, in November? He's had to be patient, hasn't he, for his chance? But yeah, I think he's suddenly a firm favourite with you guys.
Yeah.
And great guy, amazing guy. He's brilliant on social media, as I'm sure you know. He's a real character. The West Ham fans adore him. And we want more people like that, don't we? We don't want anodyne people with no personality. Football is about personality for me. The more people like Mikel Antonio there are, the better. I think he's brilliant. So yeah, it's great to see. It's great to see Jamaica represented in the Premier League, and the more nations, the better. Really, obviously we want English players to develop. That goes without saying, because we want a successful England team. As you know, we've been crying out for it for decades. But there's a lot of clubs and a lot of players and a lot of room for all different nationalities. And the more the merrier. Those players you've been talking about, it's great to see them doing so well. I mean, Wes Morgan, there we go, a living legend, one of the nicest people you could ever meet. And seeing him lift that Premier League trophy, I think that will stay with anyone that watched it. One of the great sporting stories of our times, and may never happen again, where a team like Leicester wins the Premier League, led by someone as iconic as Wes. So yeah, absolutely brilliant.
All right, so that was Gary Taphouse, renowned football commentator. You probably hear him each week watching the English Premier League on wherever you watch it. Was such a pleasure speaking to him, and even his comments about our Jamaican internationals. So the Premier League continues next week, and we will be talking about the Premier League as the show goes on. Exciting times, not so much for an Arsenal fan like myself. It's hard being an Arsenal, Reggae Boys, and Lakers fan at the same time. Yeah, pretty painful. But yeah, so that is the show for today, January 29. Thank you everyone who has listened, who has watched live on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you again to my sponsors, Jamaica Customs Agency, Country Above Self, and Accountant General's Department, service with excellence, touching the life of every Jamaican. We'll do it all again next week, Saturday, the first Saturday in February. I'm Daniel Blake. Please enjoy your weekend and stay safe.